It is my pleasure to present you with your college diploma, an associate in arts degree from College of the Canyons.
I just want to say thanks to the millions of people that have helped me and inspired me to keep it going. And 99, here I am. Thank you. Well, I did it. That's the main thing. I accomplished what I wanted to do, and this is my dream come true. But I've had lots of help along the way.
If you could say anything to the young whippersnappers out there who...
Don't give up.
Say what?
Don't give up. Do it. And don't let anybody discourage you. Say that I'm going to do it. Do it for yourself. Nobody can do it for you, and you feel so good when you have accomplished it. At least I did. And I can say I did it for myself with lots of help from multitude of people in my family.
Today is April 14th at 10:03 a.m. My name is Derek Anderson, interviewing Doreetha Daniels in the COC library. Ms. Daniels, where and when were you born?
I was born in Hastings, Nebraska, April the 25th, 1916.
And did you grow up there?
No, I didn't. I grew up in North Platte, Nebraska.
What was it like there?
Well, I had a happy childhood. We were the only black family at the time in North Platte. And my parents had a restaurant. And at that time, they had what you call a combination house where two families lived in opposite ends, but they had a community kitchen and a dining room. And the family, which was a white family on the other end, sort of looked after me while my parents were at the restaurant. So sort of I was what you might call daycare, but I was just one more member of this family.
All right. That's really interesting. I didn't know that they had community rooms and houses like that. Did you go to school?
Yes, I did. I graduated from North Platte High School in 1934.
All right. And then did you go to college then, or?
No. I wanted to be a nurse, and so I volunteered at the hospital, and I thought it was accredited, but it was a Catholic hospital, but it wasn't accredited, so I was just sort of a nurse's aide, and I wasn't satisfied with that, so then my mother and I decided to come to California because California was rated at that time a very high school for nursing, but we didn't take into consideration that when we came out, they weren't taking out-of-state students. So I didn't get in after we came out to California.
When did you come here?
We came to California in '36.
And where did you stay in California?
Los Angeles.
Los Angeles. And then what did you initially do?
Oh, I sort of babysat for we had a room, and the young couple above us had 2 children, and so I sort of looked after them while the parents worked. And then eventually I got a job and worked for quite a while.
What did you do?
Chauffeured for a little French actress that lived in Beverly Hills that couldn't drive, and I was fortunate enough to have a driver's license, and so I could chauffeur around when she wanted to get about.
Where were you during the 1930s?
1930s? I was going to school then in North Platte.
North Platte.
Mm-hmm.
And what were you doing during World War II?
Well, part of World War II, I was home with my children, and then years later, I went to work at Douglas Aircraft. Then it turned into McDonnell Douglas, and then eventually Boeing took it over, and I worked there until 1969, 67.
What was your job?
Well, I started out as sort of a processor, and then I got into product control, production control, and that was chasing down parts for different departments that wanted parts in a hurry, not waiting till they went through the assembly line to get to them.
You said during part of World War II you were mothering.
Yes.
Tell me about your children.
Robert and Raymond. Robert is the oldest. Raymond is 3.5 years younger. And that's the reason for that we moved out here to Agua Dulce, that Raymond was born in Santa Monica and he had asthma. And so the beach area wasn't good for him, and he needed a higher altitude, and where we're at is 3,000 feet. And he eventually outgrew it to a certain extent. But that was the reason for the move to Agua Dulce, was for his health.
And did they go to school?
Yes, they went to school. In Acton, they rode the bus to Acton, and then my oldest son graduated from Lancaster High School, and the younger boy graduated from Palmdale High School. His class was the first graduating class from Palmdale.
Wow. Did they go on to college?
My youngest son's was a lawyer. He's retired. And my older son is retired. He worked for the state.
What did he do for the state?
He was in housing, California Housing Project.
When was the first time you ever voted?
I was 21 when I voted.
What year was that?
Well, let's see. 1934, 35, 36.
36. And which election was 36?
Now, I can't tell you. I have to look it up.
How was the voting process different than it is now?
Well, then you just had a ballot, and you had a marker, a magic marker, and you checked off the names that you wanted to, and then you put your ballot in a box. No machines, no computers, no punch, anything. You just marked it with a pencil, a little magic marker.
And did you have to go to a certain polling place, or was it just open?
Just general. They had different voting booths in different areas. So if you lived in this side of the tracks, you had a voting booth that was reasonable, 4 or 5 blocks, and then they were in neighborhood places, usually homes, or I guess they were all garages. Most people used the garage for a voting place. Very simple.
And you said you came to California to go to school. How did you get here?
By train.
By train?
Mm-hmm.
How was the train?
Oh, it was wonderful. Going through the Grand Canyon and the excitement of the train. It was a treat.
How much did the train tickets cost?
I don't remember.
And did you take one train all the way
Yes.
across? And you came with your mother?
Yes.
Just your mother?
Just my mother and I. My father had passed away or disappeared or something. Anyway, it was just my mother and I.
And what was she doing at the time?
Well, before we left, she was the housekeeper for the Catholic parish in North Platte.
And then what did she do when you guys got here?
Well, then she did day work when we got out here. And then eventually she was a housekeeper again for a Catholic parish. Not that she stayed on the place, but she was a daily worker.
All right. And do your children have any children?
Yes, my oldest son has 4 children, and also now in November he became a grandfather, and so I became a great grandmother. That's the first grandchild in our family. Then my older son also has a married daughter, but she's a librarian and she's not interested in having a family right now. And his oldest daughter is a counselor at a private school in Santa Monica, and his oldest son is going to Pepperdine University working on his business degree, but he's also working. Then my younger son has 2 daughters, 2 children, a son and a daughter, and the son is in construction building, and the granddaughter is working to get into medical school. She wants to be a baby doctor, but she's applying for admission and hasn't got in yet, but she's driven to do it. She's a graduate of Berkeley, but hasn't got into medical school yet.
Were you ever married?
Yes, I'm a widow. My husband passed in '88.
Well, tell me a little bit about him.
Well, it was very interesting. He was much traveled, and he wasn't really interested in traveling after we were married because he had seen all that he wanted to see of the United States, and he was content to stay home. But we did like to travel and to go in a car. He wasn't interested in going on a train or didn't particularly care about flying, although he worked in aircraft. But after he passed away, why, then I started traveling. And I love to travel. I have been to China, and I've been to Europe, Paris, London, England, and I've been to Italy, Greece, and I have followed the path of Paul to all the foreign countries that are no longer there anymore, that have been taken over by other countries. And it changed the map of Europe, which is very interesting because some of the places I've been aren't on the map anymore. And I've been to both coasts of Canada twice, and Costa Rica and Africa. And just anybody says, Grandma, you want to go? I say, yes, I'm ready.
What would be your favorite trip?
Well, the favorite trip was the one that my son and daughter-in-law gave me for my 90th birthday. We spent 5 days in London, 5 days in Paris, and 5 days in New York. And it was a wonderful time.
Wow.
We took in the shows in New York, we saw a show in Paris, and the cathedrals in London, and it was a wonderful 15 days, and I'll never forget it.
Wow. Do you speak any other languages?
No.
Do you attempt to when you travel?
No. Fortunate, my daughter-in-law, she had spent several years in France, so she spoke reasonable French. She could understand, and so we went places where they didn't speak English, just for the atmosphere, that she knew that she had been there years before, and then she had friends there and took us out. It was a wonderful experience. And the same with London. They had friends in London that took us to places that you normally wouldn't see, that favorite spots of theirs to show friends when they were there. So it was a marvelous trip, and we took lots of pictures, so I can go back and look at them and just remember what a good time we had. And in Paris, the restaurants are just wonderful. And the food, the pastry and the candy and the cookies. It was just a wonderful time. And of course, New York is wonderful too, but it's different. We had been to New York several times before, and so it wasn't the thrill that the Paris and London was for me.
And how are the people? Do you normally meet people on the trips?
Oh, yes,
Or...
yes. My son is very outgoing, and he readily talks to people, and we get in a general conversation, and because they are amazed that they want to take me with my age, and then I can keep up with them. So I'm sort of a point of conversation, and then we get all around talking about what you can do, what you can't do. And so far, I've been able to keep up with them. Or they keep up with me.
Well, let's come back to the Santa Clarita Valley. Did you stay here because of your son's asthma?
Yes.
And would you rather live somewhere else?
Not now.
Not now.
No. We built our house ourselves.
Oh, wow.
And we started out with just 4 rooms, 2 bedrooms, living room, and a kitchen. And my husband had never built anything, not even a doghouse as a child. But we went to Barker Brothers and bought the plans. And of course, they told us we needed 3 sets of plans, one for us, one for the assessor, and one for the contractor. Well, we were going to do it ourselves. But we built the 4 rooms. And fortunately, we had no trouble with planning. But my husband told them that he knew nothing about building, but he could read blueprints, and we would follow it to the letter. And any help they wanted to give us, we would gladly accept. And so we had no trouble with our inspections. They just went through, just every time we called, everything was done to the letter, and we had no trouble. So then in '62, we decided, of course, both of the boys were gone then, and we decided that we needed more room. So we built a master bedroom and another bath and 20 by 40 living room. So we added that onto our house in '62. So we extended it. So now I have a big house to myself. Well, my older son is living with me now. But it's nice, and I wouldn't live anyplace else. After my husband passed, I went up to Sacramento where my older son lived, and I said, I will stay with you a couple of weeks. But in 2 days, I was back home again because he lived in an apartment and I could hear the people up above me, I could hear the people on each side and the cars, and it just drove me batty. Out home, it's peaceful and quiet. I've got no close neighbors. We're on acreage, so the house is sort of not quite in the middle of it, but it's for, we have no close roads, so I don't hear the cars unless the motorboats and motorcycles go down the road. They make noise, but actually the cars I don't hear, which is nice. It's peaceful. You can see the stars, and I just wouldn't live anyplace else. They're going to take me out feet first.
What do you think is the most exciting thing you've ever done?
Well, my 90th trip for my birthday, that was the most exciting. The trip to China was very interesting, but it wasn't as exciting as this birthday. 90 years is exciting.
What's your secret?
Well, I don't have a secret. I just do what I want to do, go when I can go, and have a good time. And I enjoy people. I like to go.
And what have you been doing recently?
Well, I'm a crafter. I like to make things. My husband and I did ceramics, and then after he passed, I got rid of all the ceramics, the mold machines and everything like that, because he did all the pouring and all the cleaning and the basic painting, and then I did the detail work. And we had a little booth out at 4 Points, and I did custom work. You would pick out a piece that you wanted copied, and I would make it to your specifications, and you'd pay half down, and I know you'd come back to get it because you had invested in it. And we did that until he passed. And then from ceramics, I went into glass forming, slumping the glass in a kiln, because I had the kilns and I wanted to figure out what I could use them for, since I wasn't using ceramics. So the glass came in next. So I made jewelry with glass, and it was interesting. And then I did a little china painting, which I could use my kiln. And then I did some stained glass work. That was interesting, and then I lost interest in it. And then I went to making beads with a blowtorch. And I did that for a while, and I lose interest after I do it for so long. And then too, but you have a hobby, and then it gets very expensive. And if you don't have a market to sell it, why then you just sort of say, well, I've invested enough in this, so then it's something else. But my latest project is to going back to school. And this semester I entered COC, and I'm taking English now, and I'm planning on getting an AA. I'm going to meet with a counselor in a couple of weeks and plot my plan for an AA degree. That's my goal.
And do you have a specific path after you get your AA? Is this towards anything, or is it just to say that you got a degree?
It's just satisfaction, something I want to do, and sort of a little challenge, because school is different from when I went. And everything is on the computer, so I'm sort of learning the computer and learning English all over again. And it's a little challenge, but I enjoy it.
And what do you think is the most difficult part of coming back to school?
Doing the homework. The reading is fine, but right now, the problem is that they want you to express yourself in so many words. Well, I was always taught that try to express yourself clearly in less words. And so I am used to using fewer words to say what I want rather than to expand it. And that is kind of hard for me because I call that fluffing the topic. You know, if you can say it in 10 words, well, why go 25 to get your point across? And that's kind of hard for me because I'm just not used to it.
And are you interested in a particular area of study?
No, that is my problem. I haven't figured out what my major is going to be. And that's what we're going to discuss because I really don't know what major I want. I don't know what it is. I wonder, do they have an undeclared? Because that would suit me because it's a little bit of everything. I'm not English, I don't want to go beyond, and the history doesn't really interest me. And I'm not really interested in the arts, and I'm not musical minded, although I did take music lessons for 15 years and I've lost every bit of it. And so music's not my thing, and art and drama, I don't know. So we're going to discuss it. Maybe we can touch a subject that I haven't mentioned, but we'll try.
All right. What do you think was the most significant event during your lifetime?
Birth of my children. I wanted a big family. Being an only child, you know, you don't have anybody else to play with. And sometimes the other children say, we aren't going to play with you today, you just go on home. And you don't have anybody. And I just wanted a big family, and I tried, but I just got my 2 boys. But I have the 6 wonderful grandchildren, and now this great granddaughter has just added the frosting on the cake. I just hope for more, but I don't know. I have to wait and see what my grandchildren are going to do. But I love the family, and we have gatherings every so often. We get together just to get together, and especially when my 2 children live up in the Bay Area. If they're down, we try to have a dinner. I try to have a dinner or some kind of or brunch or something to get everybody together, so we have a good time. But I love to have the family around me.
All right, well, that's the end of my questions. Did you have anything that you would like to tell anyone who would ever come across this video?
Well, I would like to tell them that the mothers of Agua Dulce started out as a mothers club. And we just met from house to house, and our goal was to get a school in Agua Dulce. And so then there were other married women in Agua Dulce that said, well, we don't have any children, but we would like to join your organization. So we said, you're welcome, but we changed the name from Mothers Club to the Agua Dulce Women's Club. And that was how the Agua Dulce Women's Club was started. And our goal was to get a school in Agua Dulce, and we have one. We got it there. It was hard work, but the school is in Agua Dulce. But it was the Women's Club that was the spoke that started the thrust to get the school there. And I am the last founding member of the Women's Club living today.
Wow. Well, do you have regular meetings of the Women's Club?
The Women's Club meets the first Thursday evening at the Women's Club. I don't attend anymore because I don't drive at night. But they have offered several members to pick me up, but I just a little bit too independent. I don't like to be obligated to anybody, so I don't go. But when they have their affairs in the daytime, I'm always there.
And what specifically did your group do to get a school in Agua Dulce?
Well, they petitioned, they went to Acton, and they told them that we have, at this time, we had more children in Agua Dulce to go to school than they had in Acton. And so our funds and our taxes and everything, and with the grants that were available, they were able to get a school in Agua Dulce because we had the children. And then, busing was an issue, and the threat of busing, of course, busing can always be a sore point, early in the morning and late in the evening and standing out in the weather and everything and the long ride. And so that was an issue, but we drove the point home to get the school in Agua Dulce, and we have it. It's wonderful.
And were you happy initially with the school?
Beg pardon?
The school, when they first put it in, were you happy with it, or was it too small?
My children were long gone. I had my children were out and graduated and away from home. They were adults and they got the school there. But the point was to get the school for the future. And practically none of the members' children, the first acting members, none of their children went to the school. All of our children were up and out, but we still was the goal of the Women's Club with the new members coming in to get the school in Agua Dulce.
And how many members did you originally have in the Women's Club?
Well, originally there was about 22.
And how many are there now?
Oh, I think the membership now is around 45.
Wow.
We have members that are in Santa Clarita that are members of Agua Dulce as children, but they're growing now, but they still keep their membership. They're married, but they grew up in Agua Dulce and their parents or mothers were probably members, and they came in as members, and they have kept their membership up.
And what is the current? Do they have a current set of goals?
Well, they fund, they give scholarships. I think it's a total of $15,000 scholarships each year. And then they support all the different children's parties that they have out there, the Easter parties, the Halloween parties, and they support the teen dance that they have out there. And they're very supportive of all the organizations. And of course, they have the building, and the scouts use it, the seniors use it free of charge. And they also rent it out to families for occasions. And they're very supportive of the community.
All right. Is there any final words, or are we good?
Well, Agua Dulce is a very nice place to live. And like I said, when we came out here, Santa Clarita was the onion fields, but it's amazing to see the progress that's out here. I get lost. I haven't been over all of it yet. There's areas that I have never been and that have developed around here. It's just amazing just to think that there was nothing out here than to see the development.
All right. Well, thank you for your time.
Well, thank you.